The stage is set for gold, and in this video I want to talk about gold making all-time highs and just generally give a market update for the futures options that I personally trade. Now my current positions are basically none. I only have 85% of my funds in treasury bills, no option positions, and the return for the year so far is 27.32%. Now, if you're interested in any mentorship for futures options specifically, you can email me below and let's get into the video. Gold has been going up ever since, I think it's Friday the 22nd, right over here. And this is when Jerome Powell had the Symphonium Jacksonville speech where he basically hinted the rate cut is very possible for September, and ever since the price of gold has been going up and up and up, finding different reasons to keep going up or staying up, and we still didn't have any lower lows really, which is quite crazy. So this is definitely a historical run for gold. I think it went up, what is it, in terms of 23% in just 50 days. So that's quite a lot. Now, this is a clear uptrend. And this is just like a quick analysis for what's going on the charts for gold. The trend for gold is clearly an uptrend. Obviously, there's no mistaking that. And volatility is really high for the relatively to the previous 3 months. Now, is there a reason for the price to increase? And the answer is yes. We have the rate cut expectation. We have a lot of safe haven demand. And the US government shutdown uncertainty definitely helps to elevate the price, and as well as the China trade tensions. And is there a reason for the price to go down, to decrease? And the answer is absolutely no. So obviously price can, might not keep going up. It might stay the same, but it has no reason to crash down as of right now. And what are my thoughts? And so far is far out of the money puts can be a good play. However, price is really stretched, and this is not a position I would deem pretty safe for me to take, even though it's probably going to work out. I really wouldn't want to sell any puts on gold at the moment, even though it has every reason to keep going up or staying the same. It's just somewhat of a new situation for me, and I don't want to be kind of going after the price, especially when it makes new all-time highs every single day. But again, fundamentally, it has absolutely no reason to stop or no reason to go down, as you can see from the explanation that I just gave. For copper, we can see that we had a big spike in price right over here, September 24th. What happened on this day that caused the price to kind of skyrocket? And in my opinion, the price might keep going up depending on the tariff situation. Is there was one of the, I think the second or third largest copper mine in Chile just had a closure, and due to, I think, some of it being collapsed. And obviously this will disrupt the supply, and the price can just gonna keep shooting up and up and up. For copper, the trend is also an uptrend like gold, and volatility is pretty high for the previous, relatively to the previous 3 months. Now, is there a reason for the price to increase? The answer is yes. There are 2 major mines that have severe disruptions in Chile and Indonesia. So supply is limited, and also a possible rate cut might boost the price even more to the upside. So there are a few good reasons for the price to go up, fundamental reasons. Now, are there any reasons for the price to decrease? And the answer is also yes. Another tariff escalation with China can lower demand for copper, and China is one of the biggest copper purchasers in the world. So if the demand goes down, then the price might not go up as much. So in this case, we have reasoning for the price to go up and down. So for me, the supply and demand balance is unclear, and it's too risky to open a position. Crude oil may seem like it's kind of downtrending right now, but overall, if you zoom out, and this is how I would look at crude oil currently, at least, as you can see, there is somewhat of a big side trend that crude oil has been moving within for quite a while. Now it's getting a bit low right now, and price might keep going down because of the oversupply that we currently have. But overall, I wouldn't classify it as a downtrend just yet, even though the price is creating lower lows, or it just created a lower low. And I do suspect it might keep going down more and more and more. But for now, I will still classify it as a side trend, because if we have some recovery in the price, then we are just back to exactly where we were beforehand, and the price is just kind of moving sideways within a pretty big side trend. The general trend of crude oil is somewhat of a side trend when you kind of zoom out, just as we just looked right now. And volatility is pretty high relatively to the previous 2 months, which is what I'm looking at for crude oil currently. And there is a reason for the price to increase. It's possible Ukraine attacks on Russian oil refineries, and obviously possible rate cuts, which are also bullish for crude oil. Now, the biggest thing here, we don't know if Ukraine will attack any more Russian oil refineries. They have been doing it for the previous few weeks, pretty much every weekend, but it's impossible to know. So there's a lot of uncertainty and risk to the upside. And there's also reason for the price to decrease. Slowing economy will decrease demand, which basically will make price to go down. And there is oversupply worldwide that is expected as OPEC Plus keep increasing production. So like copper, we have some good reasoning for the price to go up and down. So this is for me not clear for the supply and demand balance, and again too risky to open a position because you really don't know where the price might be headed in the next few weeks. It takes no genius to see that wheat has been trading down for quite a while, quite a few months, basically since the mid of June. And this is mainly because there's oversupply in the market, which I'm going to expand on a bit more in a second. But nothing too crazy. It's kind of been moving sideways for a little bit, but then broke down again and kind of keeps on crawling downwards and downwards. And we are at a pretty low level historically for wheat, which might be a good opportunity to maybe buy it and sell some calls against it. But this is a conversation for a different video. Wheat is on a clear downtrend, volatility is low, and is there any reason for the price to increase? Absolutely not. But there is a reason for the price to decrease, and it's oversupply worldwide. So there has been a lot of supply for wheat, and a lot of talk of oversupply worldwide over the past few months. So there's really no reason for the price to go up and only to kind of keep going down or stay on the low side just because this is what the fundamentals suggest. And my thoughts are just because due to the low volatility, there are no good opportunities that I can think of. Selling calls will be quite risky when volatility is low. Generally, selling calls is pretty risky, but if volatility is low, it's even riskier. So nothing there for me for wheat at the moment. Soybeans are in a perfect side trend. As you can see, it's been moving within the side trend for quite a while. So if you label it this way, this is quite a nice side trend. We can maybe even go a bit lower if you want to. And I've had a few trades along the way. I think probably 2 trades. One over here, we closed over there. And I think there was one more, which I'm not sure about, or it was one before that. But generally speaking, you can see how this is just a big side trend. And obviously we have some trends with up and down within this trend, the side trend. But overall, this is just a side movement for soybeans. And it's kind of trading in a channel. It's been there since, let's see here, since October of 2024. So over a year, it's been moving within this range. And obviously this is not going to continue forever. But currently, this is, I guess, my technical analysis for soybeans. Soybeans are in a perfect side trend as we just saw, but volatility is pretty low. And again, we have some reasoning for the price to go up and down. So for the price to increase, we have the US-China, and if they get a trade deal done, China will resume buying soybeans from the US, and China is one of the single biggest buyers of soybeans from the US. So they create a lot of the demand for soybeans on the US side, in the US market at least. Now, the reason for a price to decrease is if US and China don't get a trade deal done, there will be just an oversupply of soybeans and no demand for soybeans, as China keep buying soybeans from Brazil and Argentina, and it will be a big problem for the soybean price in the US because there will be basically no buyers. Now the government said, or I think Trump said, he will somehow compensate the farmers, the soybean farmers, but obviously it's not clear yet, and it's definitely not going to compensate enough to a point where it's the same volume as what China is usually buying from the US, especially this season. So due to the low volatility and unclear supply and demand balances, there are no good opportunities for soybean right now, in my opinion. Now, please keep in mind that the opportunities that I'm looking at are, somewhat rare, but they can happen. They happen maybe once, twice a month, sometimes less. Some months we don't have any opportunities, which is totally fine. I'm very opportunistic in my approach. So this might not work for everyone, but it clearly works for me. I've had a pretty good past few years while managing quite a bit capital or a large capital, and having basically only 3 losses in 2.5 years, coming up to 3 years. So I would say this is pretty good, and the losses were pretty small. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll keep you guys posted on both my analysis. This is exactly what I do every single day. And if anything changes, then obviously I will update you and keep those videos flowing. Thank you again. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will catch you in the next video.